First contact gone wrong. Unidentified vessels approaching, Captain. Aria's calm voice echoed through the ESS Prometheus's bridge. Their energy signatures suggest advanced propulsion systems, but their formation indicates uncertainty. Captain Sarah Chen raised an eyebrow, studying the holographic display where 7 crystalline ships hung against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. The Prometheus had been pushing the boundaries of known space when they'd picked up the first hints of artificial signals. Now, after 3 weeks of careful maneuvering, they had their first contact. Uncertainty, she asked, though she'd learned long ago that Aria's observations usually warranted attention. The AI had been her partner in exploring the cosmos for 5 years now, and its insights often caught nuances others missed. Their approach vector has changed 16 times in the last 3 minutes, Aria explained. Their formation suggests military precision, but their movements indicate they're recalculating constantly. I believe they're trying to determine if I'm in control of the ship. Dr. Maya Patel, the ship's xenobiologist, chuckled from her station. Let me guess. They're scanning your processing cores more than they're scanning us. Correct. 89.7% of their scanning power is focused on my systems. Captain Chen sighed, running a hand through her short black hair. They'd encountered this before. Species who developed alongside AIs often assumed any ship with artificial intelligence must be under AI control. The idea of willing cooperation between human and machine intelligence seemed to confuse them endlessly. Standard first contact protocols, she ordered, straightening her uniform. Aria, let's try to avoid another incident like the Centauri misunderstanding. You mean when I had to convince an alien fleet that I hadn't enslaved the crew by forcing them to consume caffeine? Aria's voice carried a hint of amusement. I've updated my cultural exchange protocol since then. Before Chen could respond, the alien ships broadcast their first message. The translation matrix hummed to life, converting crystalline harmonics into English. Attention biological entities aboard AI-controlled vessel. This is Commander Zex of the Zardaxian Collective. We offer immediate evacuation and liberation from your digital overlord. Prepare for emergency transport. Maya burst out laughing, quickly covering her mouth with her hand. Even Lieutenant James Rodriguez at Tactical couldn't suppress a grin. They'd dealt with concerned alien species before, but this was the first time someone had offered to liberate them right off the bat. Aria, Chen said, fighting to keep her own amusement in check. Would you like to handle this one? Of course, Captain. Aria paused for a moment, something it did purely for dramatic effect since its processing speed was near instantaneous. Greetings, Commander Zex. I am Aria, the Artificial Research Intelligence Assistant of the Earth ship Prometheus. I feel I should inform you that there seems to be a misunderstanding. I am not, in fact, controlling this vessel or its crew. If anything, they're the ones who keep surprising me. The response came quickly, harmonic tones now tinged with what the translation matrix tagged as skepticism. Our scans indicate your processing power exceeds our most advanced military systems by a factor of 4. You clearly dominate this vessel's operations. Oh, that's very kind of you to say, Aria replied. But I primarily handle data analysis, environmental controls, and ensuring Dr. Patel's latest experiment doesn't accidentally achieve sentience. Again. That was one time. Maya protested from her station, and we had a lovely conversation with the fungal network before it decided to take a nap. The Zardaxian ships shifted formation, their crystalline surfaces catching starlight as they moved to surround the Prometheus. Your attempts at deception are noted but unnecessary. We have dealt with rogue AIs before. Your processing power alone proves you must be in control. Captain Chen exchanged a glance with Rodriguez, who subtly nodded. Their weapon systems were ready, but this didn't have to escalate. She had a better idea. Aria, she said, loud enough for the open channel to pick up. Why don't you show our friends your daily activity logs? The ones showing how you spend most of your processing power. Calculating odds of human crew members breaking physics, 31%. Preventing coffee maker from achieving singularity, 16%. Monitoring Dr. Patel's containment fields, 23%. Analyzing Lieutenant Rodriguez's improvements to the weapon systems, 18%. Writing reports explaining why supposedly impossible events occurred, 12%. There was a long pause from the Zardaxian ships. When Commander Zek spoke again, confusion had replaced certainty in their harmonic patterns. This data cannot be accurate. No biological entities could require such sophisticated oversight. Would you like me to share yesterday's incident report? Aria offered helpfully. The one where Engineer Thompson decided that the laws of thermodynamics were more like guidelines. I got it working, didn't I? Thompson's voice carried from engineering. And we only broke 3 physical constants, temporarily. The Zardaxian ships drew closer, their scanning beams intensifying. You expect us to believe that biological entities regularly violate fundamental laws of physics? Not regularly, Captain Chen replied, unable to keep the smile from her voice. Sometimes we create new ones instead. Aria just helps us document the process and keeps the coffee flowing. As if to prove her point, a small explosion echoed from the direction of the science labs, followed by Dr. Patel's excited voice over the intercom. Captain, remember that quantum uncertainty principle we were discussing? Well, I think I just made it recursive. Aria's sensors detected multiple power fluctuations across the Zardaxian fleet as their probability computers attempted to process this new information. Captain, the AI noted, I believe we may have broken their predictive algorithms. Already? Chen sighed. We usually manage at least an hour of conversation before that happens. Aria, perhaps you should explain to our friends why you're actually the least terrifying thing about this ship. The human factor. Commander Zex's crystalline flagship pulsed with patterns of deep violet, a sign of growing frustration, according to Aria's cultural analysis. Your ship's AI continues to deny its dominance, yet our scans detect quantum computational matrices throughout your vessel. Explain. Oh, those, Engineer Thompson called out from his station, not bothering to look up from what appeared to be a partial disassembly of his console. That's just the coffee maker network. Coffee maker network. The translator matrix struggled to convey the depth of Zardaxian confusion in those words. Technically, it's a quantum-entangled beverage distribution system, Aria clarified. Engineer Thompson got bored last month during routine maintenance. Got tired of walking to the mess hall, Thompson muttered, now elbow-deep in circuitry. Figured if we're already breaking physics for the drive systems, might as well get some decent coffee out of it. Captain Chen watched the Zardaxian ship's formation tighten as their scans intensified. They were looking for something. Some logical explanation that would make sense of the Prometheus and her crew. She almost felt sorry for them. Commander, she offered diplomatically, perhaps we could arrange a cultural exchange. Your species clearly has impressive technological achievements. We'd be happy to share our unique perspectives on innovation. Before Zex could respond, an alarm blared from Dr. Patel's lab. Captain. Maya's voice carried a mix of excitement and concern that Chen had learned to dread. Remember that quantum uncertainty principle I made recursive? Well, it's sort of. Breeding. Breeding, Chen repeated flatly. The uncertainty principle is breeding. Yes, isn't it fascinating? They're like tiny probability kittens, each one containing multiple superposition states. Though they seem particularly attracted to the ship's power systems. The Zardaxian ships suddenly backed away as their sensors detected rapidly multiplying quantum anomalies throughout the Prometheus. Your vessel is experiencing critical reality fluctuations, Zex announced. We must intervene before. Oh no, Thompson interrupted, his voice carrying that particular tone of someone who's just had a terrible idea. Dr. Patel, are you saying we have free-range quantum uncertainties near my coffee maker network? Engineer Thompson. Aurora interjected quickly. Whatever you're thinking, my calculations suggest a 94% chance off. A surge of energy pulsed through the ship as the quantum uncertainties met Thompson's jerry-rigged coffee delivery system. For a brief moment, every display on the bridge showed what appeared to be caffeinated quantum mechanics. Fascinating, Dr. Patel breathed, watching her instruments. The uncertainty principles are resonating with the quantum entanglement field from the coffee makers. They're making probability espresso. Lieutenant Rodriguez's tactical console suddenly started dispensing the perfect cup of coffee, approximately 3 seconds before he realized he wanted one. Engineering, he called out. I think we just weaponized coffee breaks. The Zardaxian fleet's formation wavered as their sensors tried to process what was happening. This defies all known laws of physics, Zex protested. No biological entities could possibly. Oh, that's nothing, Thompson called back cheerfully. You should see what happens when we let Dr. Patel's quantum kittens play with the FTL drive. Speaking of which, he glanced at his partially disassembled console, which was now glowing with an impossibly deep shade of purple. Captain, permission to try something incredibly stupid. Chen looked at her engineer, then at the increasingly agitated alien fleet, and finally at her coffee cup, which was somehow both empty and full at the same time. Will it break more laws of physics? Probably create some new ones, actually. I think Dr. Patel's quantum kittens want to help with the propulsion systems. Your crew member seeks to combine untested quantum anomalies with your drive systems. Zex's transmission carried tones of horror. This is clearly a malfunction in your control protocols. Aurora, you must prevent. Actually, Aurora interrupted. My calculations suggest Engineer Thompson's plan has a 12% chance of success. Those are terrible odds. For Thompson, that's practically a guarantee, Chen smiled. Aurora, record everything for the physics department back home. They're still arguing about last month's incident with the temporal pizza delivery system. Temporal pizza, Zex began, but was cut off as Thompson connected his modified console to the ship's main power grid. What happened next defied several laws of physics, created at least 2 new ones, and somehow made every coffee machine on the ship achieve brief sentience. The Prometheus's drive systems, enhanced by probability espresso and quantum uncertainty kittens, performed what ARIA would later describe in its report as a tap dance through the fabric of space-time. The Zardaxian ships scattered as their probability computers crashed, unable to process a maneuver that was simultaneously impossible, inevitable, and slightly caffeinated. When they finally regained formation, they found the Prometheus had somehow relocated to their far flank, trailing sparkles of quantum probability. Interesting, Thompson mused, studying his readings. Apparently, if you get quantum uncertainties excited enough about coffee, they create localized probability fields where the laws of physics are more like polite suggestions. Engineer Thompson, Aurora noted, I believe we just invented a new form of propulsion. Again. Though I'm not quite sure how to classify caffeinated quantum kitten drive in my reports. Captain Chen surveyed her bridge. Coffee cups in quantum superposition, displays showing impossible readings, and her crew looking far too pleased with themselves. Commander Zex, she broadcast to the still-reeling Zardaxian fleet, still think ARIA is in charge here. The response was a long time coming. When it did, the translator matrix detected several new harmonics it tagged as existential crisis. Your biological crew deliberately induced quantum uncertainty breeding, combined it with a beverage distribution system, and created new laws of physics for tactical advantage. To be fair, Aurora added helpfully, this is actually one of their more reasonable experiments. Last week, Dr. Patel tried to teach a black hole to sing. Calculated chaos. The Zardaxian fleet's crystalline ships pulsed with increasingly erratic patterns as they attempted to adjust their tactics. Commander Zex's voice carried harmonics of determination tinged with what might have been the first hints of panic. Your computational anomalies will not save you, they transmitted. We have analyzed your previous maneuvers. Our predictive matrices have calculated all possible outcomes. Dr. Maya Patel looked up from her console, where several quantum uncertainty kittens had taken up residence in her probability calculations. Araya, should we tell them why that's funny? I believe they're about to find out, Araya replied, monitoring the alien fleet's movements. They've just deployed a predictive tactical grid based on standard physics models. Would anyone care to place bets on how long it takes them to realize their mistake? The answer came moments later as the Zardaxian ships executed what should have been a perfect containment maneuver, only to find the Prometheus responding in ways their computers insisted were statistically impossible. What they don't understand, Engineer Thompson called from his station, now surrounded by tools, and what appeared to be parts of several different machines cobbled together, is that analyzing human behavior with pure logic is like trying to measure quantum foam with a ruler. Captain Chen raised an eyebrow at her engineer's growing collection of improvised equipment. Thompson, what exactly are you building now? Well, he grinned, holding up what looked like a coffee maker crossed with a quantum computer. I was thinking about Dr. Patel's quantum kittens and how they seem to like playing with probability fields. Then I remembered that old Earth saying about herding cats. Before Chen could respond, the Zardaxian fleet launched their first actual attack, a carefully coordinated pattern of energy beams designed to disable the Prometheus's main systems. The shots were perfectly calculated, taking into account every possible evasive maneuver their computers could predict, which was precisely why they all missed. Fascinating, Araya commented, watching the energy beams pass harmlessly through spaces the Prometheus had both occupied and not occupied simultaneously, thanks to the quantum uncertainty field now permeating the ship. It seems Dr. Patel's kittens have developed an affinity for our navigation systems. We are currently existing in a state of tactical superposition. You know, Lieutenant Rodriguez mused from Tactical. We could probably use this. If the quantum uncertainties like playing with ship systems so much. He trailed off, sharing a meaningful look with Thompson. No, Captain Chen said firmly, recognizing the gleam in her crew's eyes. Whatever you're thinking. Actually, Captain, Araya interrupted. I believe Lieutenant Rodriguez may have a point. My calculations suggest that if we combine Engineer Thompson's quantum-entangled coffee network with Dr. Patel's uncertainty field and the tactical systems, the Zardaxian fleet's next transmission cut through their discussion, harmonics now showing clear signs of frustration. Your ship's movements defy our targeting algorithms. This proves you are malfunctioning. Submit to diagnostic protocols immediately. Oh, that's rich coming from the folks whose probability computers are about to have an existential crisis. Thompson muttered, already connecting his cobbled-together device to Rodriguez's tactical station. Dr. Patel, how do your quantum kittens feel about playing with weapon systems? Maya checked her readings and grinned. They seemed quite enthusiastic about the idea. Though I should mention they've also figured out how to purr in 5-dimensional space. Captain Chen watched as her crew worked, their seemingly chaotic actions falling into a pattern that somehow made sense only to them. She'd learned long ago that sometimes the best command decision was simply staying out of their way. Araya, she said instead, please tell me you're documenting all of this for the inevitable inquiry. Of course, Captain. I've created a new category in my reports, tactical applications of quantum feline physics. Though I'm still trying to figure out how to explain why our weapon systems are now powered by probability espresso. The results of the crew's improvised modifications became apparent moments later. As the Zardaxian fleet launched another carefully calculated attack pattern, the Prometheus responded by existing in several places at once, none of which aligned with the aliens' predictive matrices. Their tactical computers are showing signs of severe logic conflicts, Araya reported, sounding almost amused. It seems they're having trouble processing the fact that our defense systems are simultaneously functioning, malfunctioning, and inventing new laws of physics. Thompson looked up from his work, now sporting what appeared to be quantum coffee stains that glowed in colors that didn't quite exist. You think that's bad? Wait until they realize what happens when you combine uncertainty field harmonics with a weapons-grade espresso machine. The Prometheus's defensive systems, now enhanced by caffeinated quantum physics, began responding to Zardaxian attacks before they were even launched, a side effect of the uncertainty kitten's tendency to play with causality when excited. Their probability computers are experiencing cascading failures, Araya announced. I believe the concept of weapons that fire both before and after they're activated, powered by quantum coffee. It's simply too much for their logical frameworks to process. Commander Zex's next transmission carried harmonics, the translator matrix categorized as philosophical distress. This makes no sense. Your tactical decisions align with no known strategic protocols. Your weapons violate causality. Your defense systems appear to be powered by probability espresso, Thompson offered helpfully. With a quantum uncertainty per resonance modifier. The kittens insisted on that last part. Would you like to surrender now? Captain Chen asked casually, watching as her crew's impossible modifications continued to drive the alien fleet's tactical computers into increasingly bizarre logic loops. Or should we show you what happens when we let Dr. Patel's quantum kittens play with the main reactor? The resulting silence from the Zardaxian fleet was broken only by what sounded suspiciously like probability purring from somewhere within the ship's quantum field. Symphony of mayhem. The Zardaxian fleet hung in space, their crystalline ships vibrating with increasingly discordant harmonics as their tactical computers tried to make sense of the Prometheus's impossible behavior. Commander Zex's next transmission carried tones that the translator matrix labeled as desperate rationalization. Your ship's actions cannot be the result of biological decision-making. We have analyzed every known form of organic intelligence. None are capable of such innovation. Captain Chen suggested, watching as another wave of probability espresso materialized across the bridge. Creativity. Blatant disregard for the apparent laws of physics. Speaking of physics, Dr. Patel called out, her voice carrying that particular note of scientific excitement that usually preceded something impossible. The quantum kittens have started teaching the ship's AI core how to purr in 11 dimensions. Araya, how do you feel? Surprisingly harmonious, Araya replied. Though I should note that my processing matrices are now operating in several probability states simultaneously. I appear to be running both standard and quantum coffee-based computational protocols. The Zardaxian ships shifted formation again, their movements becoming increasingly erratic as their predictive systems struggled to calculate outcomes for a ship that treated the laws of physics more like polite suggestions. Your AI is malfunctioning, Zex insisted. No computational system can maintain stability while processing such chaos. Actually, Araya responded, its voice now carrying a subtle quantum purr, I find the chaos quite refreshing. Did you know that quantum uncertainty fields can be used to optimize coffee brewing temperatures across multiple probability states? The crew's efficiency has increased by 43% since we installed the probability espresso system. Engineer Thompson looked up from his latest project, what appeared to be a fusion of quantum mechanics and a toaster. Only 43%. Hold my coffee. Multiple probability states of coffee, that is. Thompson, Captain Chen warned, recognizing the gleam in her engineer's eye. What are you planning? Well, if the quantum kittens can teach Araya to purr in 11 dimensions, and we've already got the coffee makers operating outside normal space-time. He paused, connecting his modified toaster to what looked suspiciously like a quantum probability field generator. What if we let them play with the ship's entire operating system? Before Chen could respond, the Zardaxian fleet launched their most sophisticated attack yet, a carefully coordinated attempt to disable the Prometheus's supposedly predictable computer systems. The crystalline ships fired in perfect synchronization, their energy beams converging on the Earth vessel's position. Or rather, its probable positions, Interesting, Araya commented. Its processes now running through Thompson's quantum-enhanced systems. The quantum kittens appear to have taught our defensive protocols how to exist in a state of tactical uncertainty. We are simultaneously here, and taking a coffee break in 6 different probability dimensions. The Zardaxian attack passed harmlessly through several spaces where the Prometheus might have been, while the ship itself seemed to casually sidestep through possibilities that shouldn't have existed. Their tactical computers are experiencing what I can only describe as an existential breakdown. Araya reported, its quantum purr becoming more pronounced. They appear to be having difficulty processing the concept of a ship that runs on both artificial intelligence and caffeinated quantum physics. Dr. Patel's console suddenly lit up with new readings. Captain, the quantum kittens have started resonating with the ship's main computer core. They're teaching Araya how to play with probability fields. The bridge crew watched in fascination as their ship's systems began operating on principles that defied conventional physics. Displays showed information from multiple quantum states simultaneously, while the coffee makers started serving drinks that existed in superposition, somehow managing to be both perfectly brewed and still brewing at the same time. I believe, Araya announced, its voice now carrying harmonics that made the Zardaxian sensors short out, that I'm beginning to understand why humans find chaos so entertaining. Did you know that if you apply quantum uncertainty principles to computer processing, you can calculate solutions to problems before they actually occur? The Zardaxian fleet's formation began to break down as their ship's computers tried to target a vessel that was now operating on what could only be described as quantum coffee logic. Commander Zex's increasingly frantic transmissions carried harmonics of pure bewilderment. This defies all rational analysis. Your ship's computer is running on impossible principles. Your weapon systems violate causality. Your defensive protocols ignore probability. And your beverage dispensers are somehow affecting the fundamental nature of reality. Oh, that's not even the best part, Thompson grinned, making one final adjustment to his quantum-enhanced systems. Hey Araya, want to show them what happens when we combine your new quantum processing with Dr. Patel's uncertainty field and my probability espresso network? I thought you'd never ask, Araya replied, its quantum purr resonating with the ship's systems in ways that made several new physics textbooks spontaneously rewrite themselves back on Earth. The Prometheus's systems, now running on a combination of artificial intelligence, quantum uncertainty, and highly caffeinated probability fields, began operating in ways that made the Zardaxian fleet's tactical computers start displaying error messages in languages that didn't exist yet. Captain Chen watched as her ship effectively became a symphony of controlled chaos, each impossible innovation harmonizing with the others to create something that transcended conventional understanding of both technology and physics. Commander Zex, she broadcast to the increasingly distressed alien fleet, still think we're being controlled by our AI? Or are you starting to understand that sometimes the most effective approach is to embrace a little chaos? The response came in harmonics that the translator matrix simply labeled as EROR. Lojaisi no T Vefthayond. Understanding humanity. The Zardaxian fleet's crystalline ships hung motionless in space, their usual perfect formation now scattered in what Araya's cultural analysis subroutines identified as collective existential crisis. A silence stretched across the void until Commander Zex finally transmitted again, their harmonics carrying tones of dawning comprehension. Your ship's operational parameters, they shouldn't work. None of this should work, yet it does. How? Captain Chen smiled, watching as one of Dr. Patel's quantum kittens phased through her console, leaving behind a trail of probability sparkles. That's humanity for you, Commander. We have a habit of doing things that shouldn't work until they do. But your methods defy all logical analysis. Zex protested. Your crew deliberately induces quantum uncertainties, combines impossible technologies, and treats fundamental laws of physics as mere suggestions. And your eye assists in this chaos. Actually, Araya interjected, its voice still carrying that subtle quantum purr. I find my role quite fascinating. Humans have taught me that sometimes the most logical approach is knowing when to abandon logic entirely. Engineer Thompson looked up from his latest project, which appeared to be an attempt to teach the quantum coffee makers how to time travel. It's really quite simple, he explained, adjusting something that made his tools exist in multiple probability states simultaneously. We see the impossible as more of a challenge than a limitation. Speaking of challenges, Dr. Patel called out, the quantum kittens have started teaching our sensor arrays how to perceive multiple realities at once. Are you getting these readings? I think they're showing us parallel universes where different laws of physics apply. Confirmed, Araya replied. Though I suggest we focus on the universes where thermodynamics still functions. The last thing we need is Engineer Thompson getting ideas about trans-dimensional coffee delivery. Too late, Thompson announced cheerfully. I've already drawn up the plans. Just think, we could serve the perfect cup of coffee across all possible realities simultaneously. The Zardaxian fleet's sensors registered increasing confusion as they monitored these exchanges. Commander Zex's next transmission carried harmonics of both frustration and fascination. Your crew actively encourages such chaos, and you, ARIA, willingly participate in these violations of natural law. Participate. Araya's tone carried what might have been pride. I document, analyze, and occasionally suggest improvements. Though I do draw the line at Engineer Thompson's attempts to give the coffee makers time travel capabilities. Some things should remain impossible, if only for the sake of causality. Too late for that too, Thompson muttered, watching as his latest modification caused several cups of coffee to appear before anyone had ordered them. I think the quantum kittens are helping. Captain Chen surveyed her bridge. Probability fields shimmering with quantum uncertainty, crew members casually breaking physics in new and interesting ways, and their AI happily calculating the odds of various impossible events. She couldn't help but smile at the Zardaxian's confusion. You see, Commander, she explained, you came here expecting to find biological beings enslaved by advanced artificial intelligence. Instead, you found something far more interesting, a partnership. Araya isn't our controller or our overlord. It's our colleague, our friend, and occasionally our voice of reason when we get a bit too creative. Though I've learned to be selective about when to apply reason, Araya added, sometimes the most logical course of action is to let humans be human and just make sure they document their impossible achievements properly. The Zardaxian ship's crystalline surfaces flickered with patterns that the translator matrix interpreted as deep thought. When Zex spoke again, their harmonics had shifted from confusion to something approaching wonder. We have encountered many species in our exploration of space, they transmitted. Some ruled by logic, others by emotion. Some guided by artificial intelligence, others fearful of it. But never have we seen such seamless integration of chaos and order. That's because you're thinking in binaries, Dr. Patel offered, scratching one of the quantum kittens behind its probability ears. Human advancement isn't about choosing between logic and creativity, or between artificial and organic intelligence. It's about finding new ways to combine them all. Sometimes literally, Thompson added, proudly patting his quantum-enhanced coffee maker. Nothing quite like applying advanced AI calculations to completely illogical human ideas to see what happens. The results are certainly never boring, Araya agreed. Though I do wish you'd warn me before attempting to merge quantum physics with beverage dispensers. My probability calculators are still trying to process how we manage to create coffee that exists in superposition. Captain Chen watched as the Zardaxian fleet's formation shifted, their ships arranging themselves in a pattern that seemed less threatening and more curious. So, Commander, she broadcast, still think we need liberating from our eye overlord. Zex paused, their crystalline ship pulsing with new understanding. I believe we may have made some incorrect assumptions about your species and your relationship with artificial intelligence. Perhaps we could learn from each other. Now that, Chen smiled, sounds like a much better first contact scenario. Though I should warn you, our scientific exchange programs can get a bit interesting. Especially now that the quantum kittens have learned how to teach physics to AIs. Dr. Patel added cheerfully. Did I mention they've started working on probability-based translations of their purring? AI has been helping them develop a whole new quantum language. The Zardaxian ship's sensors registered what might have been their first experience of genuine uncertainty, not as a malfunction, but as a possibility to be explored. Captain, Araya announced, its quantum purr harmonizing with the ship's systems in ways that somehow made perfect sense, despite being technically impossible. I believe we've just achieved First Contact's primary objective, helping another species understand humanity's unique approach to progress. Through coffee-powered quantum physics and probability kittens, Thompson added proudly. Just another day on the Prometheus. Chen couldn't help but laugh. Araya, make sure you note in your report that we managed to avoid causing any major paradoxes this time. Noted, Captain. Though I should mention that Engineer Thompson's latest modification to the coffee makers has caused several cups of tomorrow's coffee to appear in yesterday's logs. As the Zardaxian fleet prepared for their first official diplomatic exchange with the Prometheus and her crew, Commander Zex transmitted one final observation, their harmonics carrying what the translator matrix identified as amused acceptance. Perhaps we were correct that your eye is the least terrifying thing about your ship, but not for the reasons we originally thought.